Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our commitment is to help, hope, and healing of our veteran family and our nation. I'm Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran and a certified senior advisor. Join us as we continue the mission of leadership and commitment to our communities and our great country. Why, you never know where we're going to go or who you're going to meet. We invite you to join in, plug in, and share in what we do. This is your Veterans Impact Show. Aboard. Hey, I'm Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran. Joining me, my co-host, amazing minister as well, Cedric White. Welcome aboard, Cedric.
Glad to be here, Jim.
Isn't it great?
It's a wonderful day.
Now, one of the things that you do that I'm so amazed, because we have gone through it, you do marriage counseling for veterans, active duty military,
Yes.
and just other folks,
First
I guess.
responders and Joe Public.
Yeah, but boy, one of the things that I learned when I was in the Navy, if the military wanted you to be married, they'd have issued you a wife, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's tough.
It makes it more difficult, but it's not impossible.
Not impossible. All right. And you have Healing Thine Hearts Ministry.
Yeah.
So people need to go to healingthineheartsministry.org.
Nope. HealingThineHearts.org.
Healingthinehearts.org. Okay. Last time you were coming down with something here with all the pollen in the air. I am something. All right. We've got an amazing show with an amazing couple from Maryland. Welcome aboard, Eddie and Christina Sledge. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
And I got to tell you, that is an amazing poster behind it. You guys have an unbelievable story, but Eddie, tell us just a little bit about your military history so people know you are an Army veteran, correct?
Yes, I joined in '99, went to basing in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Then went to Fort Stewart, Georgia for 3 years. I was a 13 Echo Field Artillery. Got out in '99.
So
I got out in 2002. I'm sorry, 2002.
You went to Lawton, Oklahoma. I noticed you didn't go back.
No, I didn't get orders to go back, and then I got married when I was in the military. My wife, I knew since 14 years old, so we didn't issue orders. She didn't issue orders for me to go back.
Good. Hey, Eddie, tell me a little bit about your story and your background, because it's a transition of life that is so amazing, and it weaves in to how you two guys met. Please tell us about it.
Well, we met in high school, right? The second week of high school, I was trying to chase another girl that she knew at the time, but the girl didn't like me, and we wound up. At the end of the second week, we started. I started walking them to the train station on a friend, and the other friend didn't come to school, and I asked her, and her friend came up to ask me for her to ask me out if I want to go with her, and I said yeah, and ever since then I've been chasing her. That was like 34 years ago, right?
Yeah.
4 years ago.
We've been married
wow.
for
26 years. Yep.
Wonderful.
So your background, Eddie, was very, very difficult as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And military made a huge change in your life. Tell us a little bit about your background and how the military helped you.
Well, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I lived on a dangerous block, and then my house caught on fire when I was like 12 years old. And then we moved to the projects, one of the projects in Brooklyn. And I was an upperhead. I lived a real bad life. We was poor. We used to have people give us stuff, furniture, stuff like that. So, but I needed to escape my environment. And the only way I escaped my environment, I saw it as either I'm wound up in prison or dead. So I needed to go somewhere, and I joined the military. I had an uncle that used to be in the military, so that just stuck in my head, and I studied to take the ass back, and I got in, and the military opened up a lot of doors for me and saved my life.
See, I think that is a story of so many of us.
Yes.
That the military, Cedric, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, same here. It was a matter of I needed to go somewhere. I was actually in school, but my parents couldn't pay for it. I couldn't pay for it. I didn't like the job that I had. And so it was like, I need to go somewhere where somebody can And so I went to sign up for the Air Force. They were at lunch. So I went right next door to the Navy's recruiting office, and that's all she wrote. That was it.
Hey, hey, I got a story like that. So I actually studied to get into the Air Force, right?
Okay.
And the day that I went to go take the test for the Air Force, the recruiter, he was right next door to the Army recruiter. It was a cold day. So I'm standing out there waiting, and the Air Force recruiter didn't come. So the Army recruiter comes and goes, "Hey, what you doing now? You want to come inside and get some heat? Because he probably gonna take a long time to come." So I walked inside. He showed me some pictures, started throwing all the yang at me, signed up, and then once we left out the recruiter station, the Air Force guy had a cup of coffee. He was just pulling up his gate. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you know, there's a long line. I got stuck in traffic." And I didn't say anything. And the Army recruiter said, "Don't worry, we got him." And
so I think the Air Force is going to finally realize they're losing out on a lot of good people, right? Because I was set to sign up, and I was going to be a career man in the Air Force, and they just weren't there. So Navy did a great job for me.
Great job. I am so glad to hear it. Eddie, you then went and now you guys have a wonderful company, Sledge Media. Tell us about how you and Christina put that together, because we want to then lead into some of your books, your storytelling, and what all you're doing.
Well, when I was in grad school, I went to Towson University grad school, and I had a family relationship class. And in that class, we had to partner up with another student and tell each other stories, you know, your life story, and you had to be at least 75 pages. So she told I partnered up with a young white woman, because at that time I was adult. I was 20 something, mid 20s adult in school, and she was, you know, probably like 19, 20 years old, maybe 20. And she told us story, and I wrote it down. And I told her my story. She was like, "Wow, your story is amazing." So I said, "Well, let me keep my story that way, because my daughters know who I am, and my friends and family know who I am. But I want to keep it for my future grandchildren, future family members. But I can't tell my story without telling my wife in it, because I knew it since I was 14 years old. Only woman I chasing all my life. Even if we broke up, I broke up with her on her 16th birthday, but that's a different story. But even when I broke up with her, or even in my dreams I break up with her, I'm still chasing her right to this day. So I had to convince her to write her side of the story. And you know, everyone read it, was like, "Yo, this is a movie right here. They need to make this in a movie." So you know, we wrote the screenplay and everything, but we said, you know, we want to shop it around ourselves. And we said, well, let's just, you know, keep the royalties and everything to ourselves. And we just came up with a company.
Yeah. And so that when we wrote our memoir, from there, we realized we had a really compelling story. It's the story of Christina and I, our first book. And that allowed us to realize how good of a story it was. And like Eddie said, everyone who read it, they said, "This is a movie. You guys need to turn this into some sort of movie." So we wrote a screenplay for it. I went back to school. My background's in tech and project management, but I went back to school. I went to NYU, and I decided to study film and TV production. And when I did that, one of the requirements was to create a short film as a final project. And so we decided to create a documentary based on our book. We put it through the film festivals. We won several awards. It's streaming right now. It's called Joined by Fate. It's our short film documentary about our story. And that just sparked so many other things. We started writing more books and more film and film production and teaching people how to publish books. And we have a whole media empire now.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Many times, I think that a lot of veterans want to tell their story, but they don't know how. And that's one of the things I was so enthralled about, being able to have you on and talk about your story, because you've been able to talk about your story and then turn it into a media empire. So in TV, how do you go about doing that? Where do you start?
You know, I was gonna say, Jim, because they made it sound so simple,
didn't
right?
they?
Yeah. It's not simple.
It's not.
So, man, I went back to school, and here we are. Now we got a media empire.
Well,
Let's go do that.
I tell you what, the smart thing he did, He let his wife go do the.
There you go.
Yeah, no, it was definitely not easy. It was definitely a lot of work. We make it look easy. I'll tell you that. Everyone who sees us, they're amazed at what we've been able to do. And it's only been 5 years since we started our company, and we've done so much. But really, it's a lot of hard work, right? It's what you see. We call it the iceberg effect. You see all the fruits of our labor on the top. That's the iceberg. You don't see everything underneath, which iceberg usually has a lot more underneath it going on, right? And so that's what it is for us. It just works out because he has a strength in writing. I have a strength in production, execution, project management, just getting it done. And so we combine our strengths together, and any project that we do, we're able to do that because we divide and conquer. And just like you would in the military, right? Everyone has a role, everyone has a position. And so we figured that out, especially being a military family. We had to work together. And when he was deployed and, all the things and trainings, et cetera. So we took those same skills that we learned as a military couple, as a military family, husband and wife, and brought that into us having a business. And so that's it. It's a lot of work. I know, like you said, it was that easy. No, it wasn't that easy. You're right. It was not that easy. It's a lot and we support each other.
You have to support each other. You have to respect each other's lanes, right? I know I'm bad at IT and project management. That's not my specialty. And she knows that I'm better than her in writing and editing and stuff like that. So it took a minute for us to realize that we respect each other's lanes and cross it when we have to. Like for instance, now when we do podcasts or be on the radio, we like doing it because we was working together like this as a couple way before the business, right? Now you got business, but you still, either as a family, as a married couple, you still handling budgets, still handling money. Now it's just more expenses and more things you got to do. So we've been doing that. So we just transformed that into a business and trying not to cut each other's heads off.
I think that's fantastic. Well, you're doing some of the same thing.
Well,
you're
yeah,
doing
I was saying that what you're describing, Eddie, is the epitome of couples, and whether they're in business together or just trying to make their relationship work. That's the way it works, right? The fact of the matter is, I need to understand your strengths, you understand mine, as well as understand and respect your weaknesses, you understand mine. And then we put together our best, right? And we support each other on the worst side of it. But if we decide to work together, unity, there's power. We tell couples, your superpower is your unity. When you're working together, right, you can accomplish almost anything. But it's when we start to become silos within our relationship that problems come about.
Well, one of the important things is the creative aspect of Eddie, of what you do in writing. And when you and I have talked before, you said, man, I'm so passionate about writing. I think about it from the time I get up. That's the truth. You are very, very passionate about storytelling.
Yeah. The funny thing about it is that growing up, even in high school, I hated, I didn't even want to write an essay, a one-page essay. I hated writing. I didn't want to do it. And then when I got but one thing I learned in the college, one thing I learned out of the military, was, the older people, the older soldiers and the older sergeants, they would tell me, look, go to school. They're giving you free classes. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. But it came to a point where it clicked for me. It was like, okay, I'm doing this. And it stuck in my head. And then when I went to college, I was eager to learn and I had to write papers in college. And in my major, history, I love history anyway. So I did it and then kept going. But since I started writing the first book, the memoir, I just wrote 30 books, and just from suspenses to thrillers and rom-com,
children's books.
Children's books. I get fresh ideas and I love help people tell their stories or how to tell their stories. So for people out there listening, I wasn't a born writer. I hated writing. I didn't even want to write a 3-paragraph essay.
Yeah. Sure.
It just clicked for me.
So true.
Eddie, I'm fascinated when you say you've written children's books. I think you also have something like a podcast or something for kids. Tell us a little bit about that, your work with children.
Well, we don't have a podcast for kids, but what we do is we go to schools and we with our children books we teach, we educate, and we also read to the young children, or like in like a book tour like Balls and Nobles or something like that. So
yeah, and then the other thing we do is we partner with organizations. Like, for example, we partner with Seacrest Studios.
Yeah.
They have hospital audio radio studios and audio studios within hospitals and children's hospitals.
Mhm.
And it's a really cool way for folks to come in and speak to children that are in the hospital,
Yeah.
right? But it gives them something fun to look forward to. We were able to read a story on air through their own radio station, and
Mhm.
have children come down, and we read stories to them,
Mhm.
and gave out books. We donate books to organizations, and also just partnering with the Brooklyn Cyclones. We partner with them. We sponsored their reading program so that children could read read 4 books, and they received 2 free tickets to a baseball game. And that came from Eddie's real story of going to a New York Mets game when he was 9 years old at Shea Stadium by himself, using 1 ticket from a Frosted Flakes cereal box.
Mhm.
And it was a free ticket. And so he was able to go to that game. And I thought it was a great story that we could turn into a children's book and make it an adventure and teach children about dedication, determination, and having a dream.
Mhm.
And so we did that. We published that book. We partnered with them. We were honored by their organization, the New York Mets, and they honored Eddie with the Veteran of the Game.
You know what? That is an amazing story. We're going to take a break and be right back after these words from all of our partners. I want to say a special thank you to, again, Cedric, You're Healing Thine Hearts.
Yes, sir.
Tell people how to get a hold of you.
You can get a hold of us at healingthinehearts.org. Just call us at 972-833-4344 or at Relate Station.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I work for Fairway Independent Mortgage. We're the largest mortgage company in America that's non-bank. We're all the way to Hawaii. So we're here to help you. But the big thing is, for veterans, you've got a chance to buy a home and create wealth with no money. That's an opportunity. So we're here for you. This is Jim Blythe with Veterans Impact Show. Your show, you share us, be a part of it. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Eddie, I'm really glad to hear what you're doing in the hospital, especially with children. One of the things that I have said, and Cedric hears me say it a lot, I think veterans need to lead the way. We need to be in the community. We need to be doing things like what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be mentors. We need to be fathers to the fatherless and grandfathers to the grandfatherless. And that's important for all of us to be involved in the community. And you're doing that. Tell us about some of your other projects, please.
Well, yeah, of course we have 2 radio shows.
Yeah, we are radio personalities on WLIT 106 Radio. It's a streaming radio station worldwide. We have over 1 million plus listeners globally. And our show itself in our region, we have over 300 plus listeners weekly. So our radio show is on Fridays from 3 to 5. It's a throwback party, so it's a nice Friday party after work. And also on Sundays, we have Rhythm and Praise Sunday. So it's gospel music from 3 to 7. So you get you get us on the Friday to start the weekend and close us out on the Sunday. But what we do on the radio show is we talk about relationship topics, and we also give inspiration. And that's a big part of our platform, is just inspiring others. And if you didn't notice that theme already, that's what we like to do, is inspire through the work that we do through storytelling.
I have to say, Eddie, both you and Christina, What you're doing is inspiring. It's wonderful to see a husband and a wife working together, succeeding together, building a legacy right together. Nobody, no big eyes, no little U's, but working together. But I do have a question for Eddie. I noticed the title, Master Storyteller. How do you get to be a master storyteller?
You be a master at what you do. I don't know. I guess because over time I help people. I even ghostwrite for people too. Successfully ghostwrite for people and write my own books. So, I'm very great at what I do, and I'm so grateful that people come to me for help or just a little bit of assistance.
Yeah.
And that's when you become a master of something, you become you master it and you're great at it. So if anyone needed help or ever came to me, then that's my specialty.
Yeah, and I think he's a little bit humble in that sense too. I mean, his writing is so prolific. I mean, in case you didn't hear that earlier, he's written 30 books in the last 5 years. That's not not an easy thing to do.
She's the alpha reader. So every time I write a book, give it to her, and I let her read it. So if I impress her, then I'm good to go. And I just
Yeah.
Where can we get your books, Eddie? Are they on Amazon? Do they go to your website? Go to sledgehousemedia.com. How do we get your books?
Yep. Well, you can go to our website at sledgehousemedia.com. They're available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere pretty much books are sold.
Fantastic.
So you guys are self-publishing?
Yes, it's through our company, Sledge House Media. Yep.
So that brings me to another question. How do you get to a point of where, okay, I'm writing stories and now I'm self-publishing all of these books? How do you get to that point? That's not just simple work.
No, it's not. It's a lot of.
Well, now all 30 been published. She didn't read, or I've been going fast, but she take care of the business side, and I'll take care of the writing.
Yeah, and we've published 12 books.
Okay.
Under our own imprint over the last 5 years, and we published others as well. So, and we help, like Eddie said, we ghostwrite. But going from answering your question, Cedric. So going from the writing of the manuscript to the self-publishing process. What we did was we researched it. From that very first book, we thought about traditional publishers and, shopped our story around to hybrid publishers and vanity publishers. And we realized instead to be the most profitable, it made more sense to self-publish. So we can keep all the royalties, all the intellectual property internally and in our own business, like you said, and continue that legacy. And so that's how we did it. We just we researched, we learned what we had to do. YouTube University. It was really how a lot of that came. And I had some folks that were friends that also self-published. So just reaching out to them and learning more about the process, working through Amazon and the Barnes & Noble process and Ingram Spark. And so once we learned that, we realized, this is something we can do. Again, it's that project management background that I have. I just saw it as a project, and I said, okay, just take this one step at a time, and we can go from writing a manuscript to having it distributed widely so anyone can buy it.
See, I give it a ball, and I just block, and she goes through it. The idea, I give it a ball, boom, I block. She runs all over the place, crazy with it. I just block for her.
So Eddie, you tell us like I do. I tell people I can get the ball at my 0-yard line and I can run it all the way across the field and down to around the 20 or the 15. But I need my wife to that red zone. She takes us across the red zone across the goal line. That's what I need her for, because you never score, right? If you don't go across the goal line, you can put up a lot of stats, but together we complete the project. And it sounds like that's what you guys are doing.
Yes. You said
Don't you think that's
beautiful? That's the perfect way to describe it.
And that is the way marriage should be.
Yes.
Marriage should be a partnership. Marriage should be a loving partnership, where you strengths, weaknesses, and whatever, you're doing that. So doing that, you guys, do you counsel other couples? Maybe they're coming to you and going, gee, we need to do this, do that. But I
Yes.
tell you what, let's answer that question when we come back from this break. Let me just tell you, this is a great program. Sledge House Media, Eddie and Christina Sledge, they are entrepreneurs, businessmen and women. They're a business family. And there's one more Sledge that they'll tell you about as well. So this is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Fairway's here for you. Healing Thine Hearts, Healing, and the Hope Center, where they allow us to come in here and do this. And we're very, very appreciative. So we'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. And by the way, Eddie, we won by 1 point this year. We'll be right back.
Good.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Well, hello, I'm Cedric White. I am the co-host of the Veterans Impact Show. I'm here with Big Jim Blythe, the host of the Veterans Impact Show. And we have a couple of great guests on with us today, Eddie and Christina Sledge of Sledge House Media, I believe it is. And they're doing an outstanding job. They were not so much bragging. You know, they say if it's not bragging if it's a fact, right? So they're just giving us the stats on the things that they've been doing, the things that they have achieved together as husband and wife, as a unit, and they're killing it. I love that. Eddie is a veteran of the Army, and that's okay. We'll let him do that. But
he left Fort Sill, got the hell out of the lot.
He got out of there, right? But he and Christina are successful in the way of storytelling and book writing, and I think even movies. So we want to hear more about that. I am interested, Eddie, though I've heard a little bit, read a little bit about your upbringing and sort of, prior to you making that decision to go into the military. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born it's in the memoir too, but when I was 6 months old, my mother passed away. So my mother was married to another man, and she was dating my father, who was like 20 years older than her, and they was in this apartment. And at that time, they didn't have window guards in Brooklyn, New York, in the 3rd floor. So she was holding me in her arms, and he turned around and she went out the window. So, and my mother was schizophrenic too. She was schizophrenic, and my parents would do cocaine to calm her down. So when I was in her arms, he turned around, dropped his drink, turned around, grabbed both of us, but she slipped out of his arms and he grabbed me, and she fell out the window and died 3 days later for attempted suicide.
Wow. So
then from there, I'm growing up with a step family who were adults, and this is the crack era. So, my father and my stepmother, my new stepmother, they were older, older, like in their 50s. And my cousins and everyone like that was also adults in the drug era. So everyone was living their lives, and I grew up in a home of seeing adult stuff, drugs in the bathroom, and being poor and cashing in bottles and alcohol. And I tell my wife all the time, we didn't have a Sunday dinner. My wife and co-author with a Sunday dinner book where they used to, black people sit around tables Sundays after church and just eat together and tell stories. I never had that. So when I met my wife, I was already in the projects too. So my wife brought a lot of different things in my life, and I brought in her life, right? For instance, we didn't, when we got married, we didn't even have, I refused to have paper towels or garbage bag because we didn't have that. And she was like, "You crazy, we need this." I had a real bad upbringing. Cousins in and out of prison, brother in prison. Matter of fact, my stepbrother killed his wife, who was a preacher, because he was high on drugs, and he wanted some money from her.
Wow.
And so her body lay dead for 3 days in the house while he just kept cleaning up the house before he reported it. So, that was stuff that I wasn't there at that moment, but that was stuff that I lived with, them kind of people, stuff like that.
Right. So not only did you have challenges, Eddie, but would you say that your life is what it is because you made choices? It was a choice that you made because you could have gone down the same line, that's down the same road. You had, those were the examples that you'd seen. Somewhere along the line, you had to make a decision where that's not what I want. That's not what I'm looking for. Would you say, or what made you decide not to do the same thing?
Well, even though my father was an older man, he still lived through the streets during this time. My father was old, but he was young, right?
Okay.
And he was always there for me. So no matter what, like I had, even to this day, even my in-laws, I still call them Mrs. and Miss, right? Because my father will make sure that, you know, he'll knock my teeth out if I didn't do certain things. Yeah, I ran the streets, but I knew how far I could go.
Okay.
I knew the respect factor. So even though you know, some people don't have fathers in their home and they use my father as their father because they used to educate them. My father was very wise and making sure that at least if I didn't go by the lines or I messed up, that I would see it and understand it. And I teach my children that to this day. But having that strong and my father was alcoholic.
Okay.
You know, he wasn't perfect no matter what. But having that strong man, making sure that I stay on track the best way I can, I think that was the angels around him making me make decisions or not going too far. And like, but yeah, it was.
Would you say, Eddie, that you knew you had purpose as opposed to just existing? At what point, right? Yeah, I know you say you had the guiding of your father, but at what point did you realize, hey, there's something more in me? What was it? Was it the military that helped you make that turn? What was it that made you say, you know what, I've got something more that I can give, I can achieve more?
Oh, it was when I got married. I knew my wife was gonna be successful no matter what. Because I knew in high school, but I knew right there when I got, because even in the military, you know, I still didn't really care. But once I got married, I knew, okay, my job is to, even before I knew what level she would go higher on. I just knew that the love of my life, I have to become this man. And I learned, my father always told me how to love a woman and what woman to love. And when she came in my life, and she came back to my life, which is another story.
Okay.
I knew right there that, my life changed with a purpose of being a husband. Even if I'm not going to be successful as her or do anything in life, I knew my job was to be a husband, and I was the purpose in her life that she needed and that I needed. So that was the main thing.
Christina, did you see the potential in this dude, this hard street guy? Did you see the potential in him? Did you come along to straighten him out, or what?
I would say, what happened? We had broken up before we broken up in high school. Actually, he broke up with me on my 16th birthday. That's another story. But we broke up, and I went off to college at Temple University in Philadelphia, and he went off to the Army. And we were separated for about 4 years.
But we see each other at least once a year, like somehow, off and on, somehow.
We weren't in each other's lives. And what I learned during that time was I was looking for this one man. And I always had a love for Eddie. And when he came back into my life, that's a whole nother story. You have to read the book and watch the movie.
All right.
But when he came back in my life, I knew that he had matured. Mm-hmm. He matured. He became a man, and I saw the potential in him, especially going to the Army. That really impressed me because it showed that he wanted to do something positive with his life. And that was very impressive to me. I was an old soul. I saw that the potential in him was great. And my father was from the Air Force,
okay.
By the way. So I knew I had that upbringing as well. And so I knew the career possibilities when you were in the military. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that in him, it instantly made me have a respect for him as a man.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is an amazing story. Eddie, may I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
What inspired you? How do you get started? Where do you get the idea for a book? Are they people you meet, things that are said?
So except for the memoir, the first book I wrote after that was fiction. But I wanted to write something. My goal was to write something for my brother-in-law who passed away, who was killed in Baltimore. I wanted to do like a book where people get together and talk about his life. Because I knew my brother-in-law since he was like 10 years old.
Mhm.
You know, he came to my high school when she left and I broke my leg.
My brother.
Yeah, her brother. So I wanted to write a book to pay homage to him, like a biography. But I just didn't know how to start it. So one day I'm driving and I'm like, let me make it fiction. You know, let me make this one character where all the men that I know bundled in one, having this drama, and his life can influence that. So I kind of wrote something fiction around his death, and everything else just fell into pieces. But outside of that, being inspired, what inspired me? I mean, I
think it's just anything.
Yeah, anything.
There's anything like even for the children's book. You know, the first children's book we wrote was based on his, you know, true story of going to a Mets game. It could be something like that. We have a rom-com that's based on our engaged on Christmas Eve story because we were engaged on Christmas Eve. Again, another great story. So I think a lot of things, and when we first,
I wrote a book about being military, a fiction book about military and people getting murdered, stuff like that. And just one little instance would be like, I'm gonna build around that, and I just see it differently than other people.
Yep.
Eddie, tell the story about going to the baseball game, because you told me that before, and I thought that was fascinating because, I mean, the whole story is in itself fascinating.
Yeah, so like I was the only guy in my neighborhood that I knew at the time that liked baseball, and I spent the night at a friend's house. And I said, in the back of the Frosted Flakes cereal box, it was a ticket. They used to give a ticket to go to a free Met game. So I asked him, say, can I have that ticket? He said, yes. So I cut it out, took it home, but I didn't know how to get the Shea Stadium from my house. We had on the corner of our block, we had a train station. So I just asked one day, I just went in and asked the booth, one behind the booth. She's not thinking what, you know, a 9-year-old boy going to do this, right? So she just telling me how to get the shade, you know, just telling me. So she told me how much I needed. So I just cashed, and my father used to drink a lot. So every day I used to cash these bottles at the corner store. Instead of cashing them for candy, you know, money for candy, I cashed them in and saved up tokens to get to this game. All I needed was money to get there and get back. So once I had that, one Sunday afternoon, I went to a game. You know, I went to the front desk and I went through the security and showed my ticket, cardboard cutout ticket. They can't say no. And I sat in the nosebleed section with the ice cream, helmet ice cream in the soda. I sat there with another family. We watched the game. I loved it because I'm a Down Strawberry, and Doc Gooden fan, even to this day. After that, I got back on the train, followed the crowd, got back on the train. Came home like 5 o'clock. No one even knew I was going off the block. And that was it. However, I wrote that story. I remember that story when I wrote my memoir like 30-something years later. And Christina read it in the memoir. She was like, she read it on my side of the story. She said, I never heard the story. Me, I just love baseball. Even to this day, if I go to a baseball game, if I'm sitting in the nosebleed or I'm sitting down in the with the owners in their suite, I still get a thrill. It doesn't matter. Because I've been, you know, when I was a kid, I never saw myself going. I always visioned, what if I was one of these fans in the game? How would I like it? So even when I go to any football game like that, I still get that chilling feeling like, wow, I'm here, even though I've been there like 500 times. But she took it like, hey, you know, I love the story. I'm like, okay, I just went to the baseball game. That's all I did. I ain't thinking anything of it. So she wanted to make it and inspire people, inspire kids. So we took the book, my story, put it in the book, but made it a little girl. To inspire girls, and the girl character is Chris. It's her. So, you know, it's my life, but it's her story that she wanted to put together. So we made a little girl Chris, and we took off from there. And you know, next thing I know, we had Citi Field last year, and I got the LA Dodgers, Ohtani and Mookie Betts, and Soho and the Mets giving me a standing ovation in front of 40-some thousand people for you know, celebrating our book and being the member, being veteran of the game. And I'm looking like all I wanted to do was come to a game, you know, over a cardboard box, but now I'm getting a standing ovation from the world champs in the Mets. This is crazy. You can't make it up.
No, you can't. That's a God thing, I think. Don't you, Cedric?
Most definitely.
Most definitely.
Well, and even more so, the ability to take that and use it, right? So many life's experiences that people have, right? It's a memory and you move on. You're taking life's experiences, memories that you have, significant ones, and then utilizing them to help others along the way. And look who would have ever thought that you would touch that many people with just what some people would consider to be the simplistic things in your life, right? That's what we're all called to do. I say it all the time, right? You tell your testimony, you're going to inspire somebody.
Well, you wrote a book.
I did. I wrote a book. It's on relationships. That's what my wife and I do. Michelle and I, we're relationship counselors. 4 T's for your heart. 6 steps to a successful relationship. And it's about time, talk, truth, and trust. Those are the 4 T's to any relationship. It doesn't have to be romantic, but taking those 4 T steps that God did it. He gave me the idea from the beginning of time when he took the time to create the earth, right? He made it relevant. Then he talked to Adam and Eve. He gave them the truth and he gave them the opportunity to trust. We have to be mindful of that. So yeah, we're proud of that.
You bet. And Eddie, how do you come up with ideas for children's stories? I'm fascinated by that.
Well, except for Dead Shade, a true story. My wife and her co-author, Autumn Joy Live, they came up with Joy on the Radio. So once you tell me what you're looking at, I could picture something. Everything I look at is like, I want to see it on the big screen. Mm-hmm. So you tell me what your idea, what the cover of the book look like, or your story, and I could put some. It's just something in me, and I could just put something together, lay it down, and be like, this is what I see. So so the next 2 children's books, and the other children's books I wrote was just about sports. Mm-hmm. Someone got the love for sports. We have this saying, instead of saying we can't do it or it's hard, we be like, why not us? Right. We're not the first one to do it, and it won't be the last one to do it.
Why not us? That's great. Continue the mission, right? Without a doubt. And when we come back, we're going to take a break in a minute. We're going to talk about, you have classes, you have programs to teach people how to write. I think that's so important because writing gives you a chance to really express yourself. But more than that, it gives you a chance to think. Writing helps you to think outside the box, think outside of yourself. And I think that's an amazing thing. Tell you what, let's do. Let's take a break. We're going to hear from all of our partners. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're brought to you by Fairway Independent Mortgage, Symbiosis Integrative Health, and
Healing 9 Hearts.
Healing 9 Hearts. And we're here in the Hope Center in Dallas, bringing help, hope, and healing to you as veterans. So please share us, get out, subscribe, be a part of it. Be a part of the movement to bring help, hope, and healing to your community. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbiosis Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Right, we're back, and I'm Cedric White, co-host of the Veterans Impact Show. We're here with a couple of great guests, Eddie and Christina Sledge, author, movie makers, storytellers, Army vet, just a plethora of achievements. But Jim was talking about the things that give you the idea for writing children's books. And then we want to hear about that other Sledge that I believe is on the company payroll. I want to hear about her too before we get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, well, for us, it's, to write children's stories, write any of our stories. Storytelling is our business. It's all about helping people. Now we have an opportunity to help people tell their own stories and teach people how to tell their own stories. So we do have workshops for teaching you how to write books, how to self-publish books, because once we learned how to do it, we realized, it could be a little daunting if it's your first time. So we decided we would share it with others and teach other folks how to do it. So on our website, on sledgehousemedia.com, you can check out our services where we help, you can set up a workshop with us, and we'll teach you everything you want to know. If you just want to have a one-on-one session with us, ask us any questions you want. If you're having trouble, you're trying to figure out how you're stuck publishing your book, you're trying to figure out how to do it, we'll help you answer those questions, get you moving so you can get your story told. If you're a veteran and you're interested in telling the story, we can help you get your story out there and share it with the world. So just giving back and educating was a big part of what we wanted to do, and helping others share their story. And we also have, yes, our daughter. It's a family affair. It's a family business. We have our oldest daughter. She helps get the word out with marketing and sharing our story through our business, through events, and helping others hear more about what Sledge House Media does. So we're so grateful that she also is very proud of the work that we've done. She started out helping us with creating our first logo, for our company. When we started it was called Sledge House Publishing, and then it morphed into Sledge House Media. And she was a big supporter from day one. She's our biggest cheerleader, listens to our radio show every week, and
we also
supports us.
And we also help veterans where once in a while we go to a veteran event and ask them to do a drop for us on the radio about their business. So we go to veteran businesses and say, hey, a lot of times a lot of veterans don't know how to advertise on the radio, get their word out, their business small or big. So we go there and we tell them, hey, even if you can't pay for a commercial or airtime right now for commercial, what we do is ask you for a drop. That way, once in a while, we put a drop in our rotation, and people can hear what you do once in a while, and then they can reach out to you. But at least we try to give that opportunity to people if they can't pay for advertising. And a lot of people do advertise on our station too because they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, so we help people tell their stories that way. Veteran-owned businesses and small business owners tell their stories and share their business through our radio show as well.
And how did you get into radio? I know how I got into it, but how did you get into it?
We got into it. It happened because we worked with our co-author, Autumn Joy Live. She's the GM, the general manager of Lit 106 Radio. And there was an opportunity. They had an opening for a Sunday show on the Rhythm and Praise Day, on the gospel show on Sundays. And so there was an opening. It aligned with what we do, and helping people again, with marriage advice, relationship advice. Since we've been married for 26 years, people always ask us, how do you stay married? We have the 2 books, we have the film, but this was just another medium that we can now share these tools for a successful marriage.
We was at a live team of a show, and people see, people ask about podcasts, and it just so happens that the guy that works with the program director sitting behind us, and they just had an opening, and he said, hey, I got an opening, on a radio show if you're willing to try it out for, and you're a couple, you could give advice. And I'm looking like, hey, that's an opportunity. I'm going through this door. Yeah, let's try it. And we never look back.
Yep.
Now, is your daughter able to sell the advertising on that show to be able to promote Sledge House Media and pay the bills?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we both do. I'm head of marketing and partnerships at Live 106, the radio station. It's all about partnering with brands and companies that want to sponsor our radio show or sponsor the radio station. So that is something that definitely, if folks are interested in that as well, that is something that you can do. Reach out to us as well. info@sledgehousemedia.com.
You're going to hear from me when we get back from Jamaica.
I would love to. Yeah, we can partner with all of your organizations. You want to advertise on the radio, you can become a guest on our show.
Yeah,
I would.
You and Janice's wife, and your wife. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I got started on radio when I was 16. I did Armed Forces radio when I was on the carriers. I've done talk radio. I love doing radio. We morphed into this a couple of years ago. But I tell you what, we've got to bring this one back into the dock. This has been an absolutely fabulous program. Eddie, Christina, I am so thankful that you came aboard to tell us your story and tell us about your company, Sledge House Media. Pastor, time to close. Would you please Close us with a prayer.
All right. So, Father, in your name, we thank you for this time. We thank you for people like Eddie and Christina and their family, their business, and what they're doing, the opportunities that they've shown that if we just step into our purpose, life is more than just existing. So be with them, be with us, be with the veterans out there that need help, hope, and healing, Father God, and be with this nation. Bring us back to being one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen, amen, amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Sledge House Media. What a great thing. Let's close with putting up their book on and say thank you. Join us, be a part of Veterans Impact Show. Meet people like Eddie and Christina Sledge. Get to know these folks. Go to their website. Take a look. If you want to learn to write a book, go. You want to learn about an entrepreneur, go look. Thank you, Eddie and Christina, for being on board. Right?
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys next week. This is Veterans Impact Show. Join us. Thank you so much for DBTV, AUN, and the new network that we're on, the Unplugged Network. So thank you very much. This we say, and good night today. Bye-bye.
All right.